Is Islamophobia and people being xenophobic. Is that running wild?
We're maniacs. We're Islam. They want to bomb people up and suicide bombing and things of that nature. And that just comes from people who don't understand something.
It started on our screens. For decades, Hollywood and the global media have curated an image of Islam, a silhouette of the enemy that ignored the humanity of Muhammad, the shared roots with Jesus, and the vibrant reality of millions. Whether it's the treatment of Muslims in China, the tensions in France, or the far-right rallies in the UK, the question remains, is the world reacting to the people or to the caricature we've been sold? Today, we strip away the headlines and the Hollywood tropes.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. This is Brother Cliff of the Underground Railroad television show and podcast. And today, Islamophobia is just running wild. It's running wild. And you can call in if you want to at 312-884-9757. But this was, but Islamophobia is running wild. You know, like the Hawkster said, Hawkamania is running wild. Islamophobia is running wild. And I'm honored to be here with my friend and colleague in Islam to talk about Islam and Christianity. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay. And you know what? I thank you for accepting the invitation to come on. And
it's a pleasure.
Alhamdulillah. Brief introduction of who you are.
Okay. My name is Minister Ben Willis. I do a show called Minister Ben Willis Blast Out Podcast on YouTube. And I've known Brother Clifford Bradley for a long time. We're very good friends. We're brothers in Islam. And I look forward to, this is an honor for me to be on your show.
Mm-hmm. You know what? It's an honor to have you on my show. Anybody that looks at the Underground Railroad television show podcast, I'm asking you out of humbleness to support his platforms, whatever he does. And those website links will be in the description.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Aki.
Alhamdulillah. Or we're in Chicago in the United States of America. You know, I'd like to ask you, brother, what does the word Islamophobia mean to you? And is it running wild? Like Hulk Hogan used to make a statement. He was a wrestler. Hulkamania is running wild. What you gonna do when a Hulkster comes at you? Is Islamophobia and people being xenophobic? Is that running wild in the world?
I think so. I mean, there are misnomers that are pointed at Islam, that we don't believe in Jesus. We're maniacs. We're Islam. They want to bomb people up and suicide bombing and things of that nature. And that just comes from people who don't understand something. When you don't understand something, you're going to depict something that's negative, just as well as anybody else that's walking on. Just say, Christianity, for instance. You know, in the United States, people are locked up in prison for rape and murder and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the people that are doing it are Christians. And so what we put that stamp on people with Christianity, say they're rapists and murderers and slanderers and robbers and thieves. No, those are individuals that do that. That is not the religion. The religion is not the problem. It's the people that do those particular acts. So yeah, to be afraid and any kind of phobia, it depicts something wrong anyway with it, because the root word of Islamic phobia is Islam. And so no, in fact, Islam means peace.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Islam means. It means peace.
Mm-hmm. When we talk about this, there is hypocrisy and there are hypocrites in Christianity and Islam.
Oh, most.
I'm asking you that a question because I'm building up for something else. Mm-hmm. What are some of the hypocrites the people that perceive themselves to be Muslim, but they really are. What are they? What is your perception of that, and what makes them a hypocrite?
Well, I mean, this is not even a perception; it's a reality.
Mm-hmm.
That when I go in any ghetto neighborhoods,
Yeah.
I have the Eastern brothers in the ghetto stores in the black community. They will have pictures of the Kaaba in the store, and they would say "Assalamu alaikum" to you and everything else, and yet still at the same breath, they'd be selling pork and alcohol um, in the store.
Yeah.
And Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, forbid those types of things. That's forbidden in Islam. So that right there is hypocrisy at the highest form. Also, they'll leave the store, go to Jumu'ah prayer on Friday, and then they'll come back and have sex with underage girls in the black community
Yes.
and do things like that. If that's not the highest form of hypocrisy, and you never see their daughters and their wives and things like that in in the store. So yeah, there is big hypocrisy in Islam out of some Muslim brothers and sisters.
Okay. And when we talk about his hypocrisy, I'm going to use, I'm going to say a famous priest in Chicago. I'm going to say Father Flagger.
Okay.
He, you know what he talks about civil rights and doing good for people,
Hmm.
but I've never heard him come out about the pedophilia that exists in Chicago and the Vatican. But can you tell some of the hypocrisy within the Christian religion?
Uh, I talk about Father Flagler. Um, I know that you know I went to Catholic school, so grammar school and high school, and I know that the priests that are there, they transfer from parish to parish. They got to transfer,
Mhm.
but he never has.
In
In fact,
Chicago.
yeah,
Mhm.
and they fought to stay there in there. Now, I know that there's a alleged uh, a case about that with him. I think that they I think that they exonerated him. He wasn't found guilty of that.
Mhm.
But when we talk about pedophilia in the Catholic faith, yes, there's record numbers of pedophilia in a Catholic religion. Um, where they, in fact, those priests, they don't go to prison
Mm.
for molesting and raping little children, little boys. They don't go to prison. They
Yes.
just take them and send them to the Vatican
Yes.
and hide them out there.
Mhm.
That is a fact. That's not even me talking.
Mhm.
That's a fact that happens.
Mhm.
So, how do you look at that? Where's your trust in those types of things? So, yeah, it's major hypocrisies in all the um, the religions, in Judaism, Christianity, and in Islam.
Not just talking about Father Flagger, but what are some of the other what are some of the clauses that you see in the hypocrisy? We've talked about the hypocrisy in Islam. What other hypocrisies do you see within the Judeo-Christian society? Can you expand on that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, here you go. You can look at the what's called the Babylonian Talmud. The Babylonian Talmud are scriptures that the rabbis had put together, and I encourage everybody that's out there that are researchers to research the Babylonian Talmud. And in there, it talks about they give a depiction of Jesus,
Yeah.
and that say Jesus. They don't believe in Jesus. First off, they say that Jesus will is boiling in hell in his excrement,
Hmm.
which means he's boiling in hell in his waste.
Hmm.
That his mother Mary is a whore,
Hmm.
and that it's okay for them to have sex with children
Yes.
because they are the chosen people. That's what is stated in the Babylonian Talmud, which was put together by Jewish rabbis. So, and that's not me talking. I encourage everybody to do the research because that is another thing that's factual. And I can also give you a little something in reference to the that when we go into the Quran, where it says and Quran is the holy book of the Muslims.
Yes.
It says that Almighty God says that uh, it says that the the Jews and the Christians will change the books, that they'll change the Bible, they'll change the Torah, they'll change it with their own hands.
Mhm.
And so when it speaks like that in the Quran, it tells you that, and you see that they took parts of the Torah out and made it into the Talmud.
Yes.
And so it says there in the Quran that they will change it, and they did. So look at the Babylonian Talmud
Yes.
that's by the Jewish rabbis, and you can see just grave
Mhm.
hypocrisy
Mhm.
and slander.
When we talk about this hypocrisy, what folk want to focus in on you.
Hmm.
What moral principles did you see within the Islamic religion that made you, I assume that you was a Christian,
Yes.
deviate from those teachings? And why should people examine
Okay.
what you're talking about?
Well, I'm, of course, I come from a Christian background. My parents, my grandparents, my family, my cousins are Christian, and I've always been I've been a good guy. I believe in God and things of that nature, and I just believe in being a good person. And so, but my first introduction of looking at Muslims was seeing the brothers with the bow ties and the
Nation of
woman with the
Islam.
long dress and everything else, which is called the Nation of Islam, and Muhammad Ali and everything else, and Elijah Muhammad, but never knew really to get in depth into them,
Hmm.
but to always look at them as kind of mysterious, so to speak, because they dress different, they talk different. But one thing that really grabbed me is that they were so knowledgeable.
Hmm.
And I'm like, how do these guys know so much? And also another thing, there was a mystery to them in the black community was that you don't mess with them.
No.
You don't mess with them. You mess with any of them, and when it's called a black Muslim, you mess with any of them, that it could be a problem.
Hmm.
You did not disrespect the women in there because those brothers will come see you.
Oh yeah.
So it was always
Hmm.
that kind of looked at it, but I never, you know, the bean pies and the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. Then I remember my father, he joined the Nation of Islam,
Hmm.
and I used to look at the Muhammad Speaks newspapers, and the police were pigs, and the
Hmm.
white man's the devil, and the black man is a god. And I thought that was a different twist because
Yes.
when I'm in Catholic school, I seen a white Jesus, I seen a white God the Father, and I seen white devil, and everything was all the statues was white.
Hmm.
So I seen different concepts.
Hmm.
And then going to church with my grandparents, I would see the depictions of Jesus, of course, and that was white.
Hmm.
And so it was a thing of religion.
Hmm.
It had me thinking about what is it and why. So my transformation to becoming a Muslim, one day, I met this brother named Muhammad Najum. And we were talking everything else, and he's saying, "Hey, why don't you come to Islamic studies with me?"
Hmm.
I'm like, "What's that?"
Hmm.
He says, "Like Bible class, go to Islamic studies. He called it Talim."
Hmm.
And I said, "Okay." I said, "What is that?" He says, "Like Bible study,
Hmm.
but only for Muslims."
Hmm.
So I go to it the one day, and this brother that was talking and giving the talk,
Yes.
he was so smart.
Yes.
And I'm like, man. And I was asking questions, and he would answer them,
Yes.
and it made sense.
Yes.
And I said, I was happy that I went, and then I left and came home, and Brother Muhammad Najm asked me, said, "How'd you like it?" I said, "That was pretty cool. I I understand. I like it."
Mm-hmm.
So the following week, he said, "You want to go?" And the following week, I said, "Yeah,"
Mm-hmm.
and I went.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, "You know what? I think this works for me."
Yes.
And I said, "Well, I think I'm gonna become a Muslim."
Alhamdulillah.
And I took my declaration, which means,
Shahada.
my shahada,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like being baptized and converting to the religion. And so I became Muslim. The brother who was the instructor name was Mark Shearer. Mark Shearer is the brother who he brought
You know,
me in.
he's editor of the Muslim Journal in Chicago.
I know,
Okay, but
I
go ahead.
know, I know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. Now let me tell you this: since that happened,
Mm-hmm.
once I became Muslim,
Yes.
then my journey began.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fast forwarding.
Yes.
I wound up becoming what's called the imam, which is a pastor, preacher, minister,
Yes.
in Christianity.
Yes.
So I became it, and it was up in Minnesota,
Yes.
and I had a community that I ran, and so after that, I
Mm-hmm.
come back to Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm with this organization called the Flaming Crescent Society,
Yes.
and we were doing lectures, monthly lectures,
Yes.
and so I happened to see the brother. I haven't seen the brother Mark Shearer, who I took my declaration with, for maybe 10, 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked and I'm thinking, I think that guy looked familiar to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked one of the brothers in the Flaming Crest, I said, "What is that brother's name there?" And they said his name is Mark.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, it might be that brother.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we're doing a lecture with the Flaming. We're doing a lecture with the Flaming Crescent,
Yes.
and it's my day. I got to do a full lecture for the full hour.
Yes.
And I asked the brother who runs the Flaming Crescent. I asked him. I say, "Would that brother Mark be there at the lecture?"
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I asked him to be there because I said this is the brother that brought me into Islam, and I wanted to reacquaint myself with him." And so, yeah, the brother came to the lecture,
Yes.
and so I told him the story and the journey
Mm-hmm.
of the journey of what happened,
Yes.
and me and him connected.
Mm-hmm.
Me and him connected like that, and I said that he doesn't know how important it was and impact he had on my life
Mm-hmm.
in doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I became the imam, and I had a community, I had a ummah
Yes.
that I had in Minnesota,
Yes.
and just that point,
Mm-hmm.
and me and him embraced and have always been, always been indebted to him.
It's good, brother.
Brother Mark Shearer plays an integral part in me being who I am as far as Islam is concerned. But now let me say this for my Christian brothers and sisters and brothers and sisters under Judaism. I love Jesus. I love Jesus.
Yes.
I love Abraham. I love Moses.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be a Muslim without following them and loving who they are.
Yes.
Okay, I don't mean because I have part of Christianity in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I have Judaism in my heart because of those noble prophets that I just spoke about.
Hear that, Ed?
So,
Just got a friend named Ed. Hear that, Ed, out there?
so
Okay.
so I'm not against any of that.
Yes.
And the biggest hypocrisy about religion is that they hate each other. They fight against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Christians, I don't like apostolic. I don't I don't like Pentecostal. I don't like Jehovah's Witness. I don't like, and they're going back and forth each other, but they still supposed to be following Jesus. You got the Zionists. You got the Zionists. The against you got the Hasidic Jews. You got all that they're fighting against each other. You got the Muslims, the Shiite, and the Sunni. They don't like each other. They're battling against each other. So that's the major hypocrisy, that they not only do they don't like the other religions, but they don't like each other in their own religion.
Yes. When we talk about the plight and the disconnect and the Islamophobia, when we look at our brothers in Palestine right now, and it has been bombed out, and Netanyahu is wanted on war crimes.
Yes.
He's the prime minister of Israel. What is your genuine feeling about the brothers in Palestine and them being bombed out in the United States and Israel? They wouldn't recognize any government that was duly elected by the people, and I think Hamas was elected by the people. I mean, what are your views about what's going on in Palestine?
It's a shame, really, and we don't have no Islamic. In fact, the Muslim world is very weak. It's extremely weak. You have Saudi Arabia, who the United States Embassy has set up shop there. They're in the bed with the United States, and they call the United States the house of Satan, because everything goes. That's what they're called from the Muslim country, the Muslim world. And so, how can you have a strong Islamic base when you got the Muslims with themselves on the other side of the fence with other people, just like in Iran, just like Iran. You got Saudi Arabia against Iran.
I mean, don't you feel it's a tragedy what's going on with the Palestinians?
Well, it says in the Quran, I paraphrase it, that if you fight one Muslim, you fight all.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
If you get into one Muslim, you get into it all of them.
Now the Quran says this.
And so when we do something else, when you see the brothers hurt, the brothers and sisters hurt and getting beat up, and in fact, you on the side of the opposition, how in the world could you talk about being a Muslim if they're not together?
Yeah.
And they're not the same book that everybody's supposed to read and follow, they don't.
Yeah, to bring about a peaceful resolution. But I'm saying it like that for a reason.
But Allah says, fight with those that fight with you.
Yes.
That's what God says in the Quran.
And once they retreat, leave them alone.
But the thing is, they're folding.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're folding. They're not standing. They're not standing with the rest of the ummah.
When you say this is a strong statement and it's the truth, would you say that Saudi Arabia having American troops on the ground in Saudi Arabia, this is wrong? And why is it wrong, and why?
Saudi Arabia sold out. That's all too. They bought out.
Okay.
They had a homosexual imam. No. He had a pink Quran.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Oh, well, I'm gonna say it.
I want to get knocked off YouTube.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying it. I'm saying it. He's not saying I am, but that is a fact.
Yeah,
that's a fact. That's not. It's the biggest. Everything goes there.
Yeah. I got it.
I got Listen, my mouth and where I talk. That's.
I know what.
No, don't do
I'm
anything.
trying to stay on YouTube.
Right. Don't touch this brother's channel. Don't touch this brother's channel. But I am, go to Minister Bill Willis podcast. I'm the one that said it.
But you're saying that it is unjustifiable for foreign troops to be on Saudi Arabia land. Why?
Sure.
Why?
Sure.
Why?
Sure. Because because when you're on Saudi Arabia's land fighting us Muslims, that's why it's wrong. That's why it's wrong.
Okay.
That's why it's wrong.
You know, when we look at right now in the UK or England, there are thousands of people that are protesting that they want immigrants and Muslims taken out of their society. As you watch the news, what goes through your head when you see something like this? And what are your feelings about what's going on in England and the UK about wanting to remove Muslims and immigrants out of their country because they feel that they are entitled to, they're following the rules, but they're getting aid and they're getting things like that. What is your feeling about that?
Well, I think first off, when you start, when you look at people and you do stuff like that, first it becomes you don't know what the people stand for, what their beliefs are, and everything else, and then it just straight. Then it comes down to straight bigotry.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to straight bigotry. You can't really dance around it. It's because I just don't like you,
Yes.
and I don't want you around.
Mm-hmm.
So when I don't want you around, get out. Just get you out of here. It's just that simple. That's not hard because being a black man here in America that's grown up and not understand what slavery is all about, anybody's plight that's going through anything, we have seen it for 400 plus years, and we're still witnessing it now. So, and it ain't got nothing to do with because we did anything wrong, anything else. It's just because you have built-in hatred for people.
Yes. And you know, when we talk about Islamophobia, we know that France and the UK, they want to outlaw the burqa. What is a burqa? A burqa is something that the Islamic woman puts on, and they want to outlaw the niqab, which is not obligatory for a woman to wear niqab over their face to hide their beauty. What do you think about when you heard about this in France and the UK that wants to ban the burqa and the niqab? What are your views about that, brother?
Well, you know, when you're doing things that are people's religion, anything you can try to strip away from them to upset them about the way they carry themselves, where they dress, their mannerisms, and everything else. It's just the point that it's simple as just I don't like it, I hate it, I don't want to see it, and I don't want it to be in my face. And that you know, and that's it, and that's it. You know, that's it. And so I get all of that. You know, I understand that. I'm not shocked. You know, I'm not shocked. And like I say, the hatred that the Muslims get around the world, the planet, is because first off, you don't really understand.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that out of all of that, Muhammad Ali was beloved all over the planet.
Yes.
You know, he was beloved all over the planet, and he never wavered on him being a Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes down to what you understand and what you don't understand, and then you have that bigotry and the hatred, and the racism for that. I don't like.
You know what? As we go around the globe and look at Islamophobia in China, you could be sent to jail if you are observing Islamic practices. Why is this?
Well,
and is this wrong?
China continues to erase Islam within its borders. If you watch Gravitas regularly, you already know what's happening in Xinjiang. The template is now being applied elsewhere as well. The Chinese Communist Party is shutting down hundreds of mosques in Ningxia and Gansu provinces. This Sinicization of Islam is being called Operation Consolidation. Local authorities are shutting down mosques, giving them a makeover. They are being made to look Chinese. The Human Rights Watch has raised a red flag on this. According to their report, China is not just closing down mosques. They are either destroying them or repurposing them altogether. In the Muslim-majority village of Liaoqiao, located in the autonomous region of Ningxia, 3 out of 6 mosques have had their domes and minarets stripped away. The rest have seen their main prayer halls demolished. This is how it happens. First, they remove the external elements of the mosque. Then they remove the facilities like the prayer halls, podiums for the preachers. And when people stop going to the mosques due to them being rendered non-functional, the Chinese authorities exploit that as a pretext to shut them down. According to satellite footage obtained by the rights watchdog...
I don't know. I don't think so, because if that's their law, because in the United States we can practice freedom of speech and the right to practice your religion. In other countries, you don't. And so, and if you don't, you know the consequences, and they don't sugarcoat what you can do and what you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And if they got parts. If you steal something, you get caned. Remember that the caning and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's their law. So to go and practice it and do that outwardly, then you are going against their laws and their rules, and there's consequences behind it. I just.
So you're going against state law. So you saying there's are you saying there's justification for what China and President Xi is doing? There's justification there.
If that's their law. So as Muslims, we have to obey the laws of the land.
Yes.
That's what we got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if the law over here says you can't practice this religion, then, and we got to obey the law of the land, but we know if we practice religion, they'll chop our heads off, then that defies common sense to stay there. You understand? Mm-hmm. Unless you just will hide yourself and just worship the way you worship. So, those are tricky situations.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, when we look at, I'm going to come to the West in our hemisphere, okay, the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
There are people in Texas right now, and they wanted to build a whole Islamic community, and the tech people in that Texas area, they were outraged. And there are even politicians that have come up with laws saying that we ban Sharia law. Can you expand on that and tell us?
Yeah. They have some of the same things here in the Chicagoland area.
I didn't know that.
There were. I want to say Palos.
Palos site?
I want to say that it was a building. I think it used to be. It was an abandoned school, and there was some Muslim brothers and sisters wanted to make it a mosque, and the township was totally against it. We're totally against them building a mosque and a masjid in that area, and so the people are outraged with that, and I don't even think they had a chance to open it, and they would have got pushback from it. So yeah, in that instance, you're not wanted there. That's just a reality. But now here my thing is now. Opposed to putting it all in that area in Texas, there's black communities that are void of masjids in the community.
Yes.
There's vacant lots in black communities that there's nothing being built there. There's in communities all over the country. Why the Muslim brothers and sisters go and open up and take that land and build masjids and mosques in the black communities? Why don't they do that? I haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen it yet. But most of the time when they want to go in unincorporated areas that's not in the black neighborhood. Not in the black neighborhood, but somewhere like in our instance here in Chicago, they're all out in Bridgeview in Downers Grove and Villa Park, none on the south side of Chicago, none on the west side of Chicago. There's none of them that have done anything like that. They, in fact, all you see that you got makeshift, raggedy storefront mosque. It's storefront raggedy and horrible by brothers trying to run it, but you see nobody that want to take any infrastructure and build that here in the city of Chicago and all throughout all throughout the United States. So, we're talking about we're talking about Islamic phobia, and we're talking about the hypocrisy. So I want y'all to understand the hypocrisy of that.
Yeah, I mean, when we touched on it, but I would like to ask you again. Do you think this is legitimate that there are elected officials in the United States talking about Sharia law will not be the law of the land? I think it's outrageous, but I don't know if you saw that on the news. But can you comment on that, please?
With Sharia law in the United States, that would be tough. You know, that would be tough. I don't even know you can. I don't even know how Sharia law would even withstand.
Governor Abbott.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
In Texas. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, that's something to think about. That's something to think about. I'm looking at the mayor in New York now. People have pretty good backing for him. The brother in
Marianne, I think.
Yeah, the Muslim brother.
I mean, so the Sharia law sound like you don't. Okay, you don't want
The
to.
Sharia law is.
I'm talking about the legislation.
I know.
The legislation that was introduced.
I know.
So you'd rather just stay on.
Yeah. You know,
Stay away.
Sharia law. Yeah.
You'd rather stay away from it.
Yeah.
You know, it's talking about the mayor in New York, which he is a renowned Muslim, and he's being demonized because he wants the rich to pay more taxes and give more resources for the individuals that do not have that much. First of all, what do you think about the mayor of New York? Okay, he's a Muslim. And what do you think about his actions thus far?
I think that he's trying to stay in accordance of the faith. And that's such a thin line, because you're talking about faith and then politics or politics. And he's trying to stay there. And when it talks, I can't. In the Quran, it talks about taxes and usury and things of that nature, about money. He's trying to stay right there in them boundaries, but it's not popular for the rich. It's not popular for the rich, and I pray for the brother and hope that he's able to make his accomplishment without deviating from the faith, because he's going to have a lot of opposition. He's going to have a lot of opposition, and there's people waiting for him in the wings.
The news media is relentless and brutal in their attacks.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to get back, get Zakat to a certain extent.
Right.
When we talk about Islam, there are 5 moral principles in Islam. And I would like to ask you, how could an individual say that Islam is evil or bad religion if they believe in one God? And can you explain the first pillar of Islam?
Well, the oneness of God, yeah. When we talk about when they try to say Islam is evil, the first thing they look at the suicide bombers, and when they hear the war cry, Allahu Akbar, and all of a sudden, they look at that as being a war cry for Muslims, which it is not a war cry for Muslims. It is just you making a statement that God is the greatest. That's what it means. It means God is the greatest. In the English language, Allahu Akbar is the Arabic, but in the English language, it means God is the greatest. But when people fight or to gain strength, they'll say that. But when you see people, they say, well, they're blowing up buildings and everything else, and that's all we know and you paint a depiction of Muslims as being suicide bombers.
Why don't they bring up Constantine out of curiosity? But go ahead.
Yeah,
But go ahead.
yeah. Well, the thing is that it's not true. It's not true. Islam means peace, and but one thing about the faith, it tells us not to turn the other cheek. We don't turn the other cheek. So if you hit me, I'm hitting you back. You know, so that's just a part of still educating. If if people willing to if people willing to listen to you, you can educate them. If they're not willing, then they'll just keep the same idea about you.
And for people, and that's interesting, believe in one God. That's one of the pillars. And how could Islam be evil if we pray? One of the pillars is to pray 5 times a day. Maybe you can explain about the 5 days a day, 5 prayers a day.
Well, when you pray as often, which is that the Muslim prays 5 times a day, we believe in one God, the one that made all of us, the one that created all the heavens and earth, everything and everything. If that is what we believe in, and you pray to God on a regular basis, it's the schedule is to pray 5 times a day. Then your mind and your thoughts and your spirit is all centered on God. So the thing is that you can't take what a person do that you don't understand and say, okay, that's all of them, because that's not the case. And so it's people's sometimes ignorance. Some people don't want to know, and some people just want to be prejudge those who are called Muslims.
And if we're evil, I would like that for people out there that are looking and have misconceptions. I think one of the pillars is Zakat. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. We pay Zakat. Would this be the act of an evil person? And can you explain what Zakat means?
It means charity.
Okay.
Zakat means charity, and that you have charitable acts toward human beings. And of course, with anything, whether it be money, food, or just a kind word or things like that. And those are things that, which is something that all human beings should do. You know, all human beings should do that. But when we're talking about Islam and what it's about, that is one of our principles is to be charitable. And so it's the oneness of God, to pray 5 times a day, but to be in prayer, you know, to be prayerful, and and to give charity. So yeah, that is our component. Those are some of our principles that what Islam is all about. Evil and everything else is just it's a narrative that's painted because you have a picture that you want to paint, that you have a personal uh, vendetta against a group of people that practice their religion this way.
And when we talk about the pillars of Islam, if Islam is evil, why do we practice Ramadan? And there's somebody that's listening that does not know what Ramadan is. Can you explain that?
Ramadan is fasting. It is upon the Muslim to fast, and you fast during a month. It's the month of Ramadan. You fast, and when you have to be, like I said, if you're sick or anything like that, and you have health issues, or no, you don't have to. You don't have to fast. The fasting, what it does actually, it's to make you concentrate more on God, because now you you find yourself with food and water during the daylight hours, and so you focus more on Almighty God, and you deny yourself that. It's for your spiritual strength. It's not only for your spiritual strength, but on the secondary part, it's good for your health. It's good for your health also. And so that is upon the Muslim to do that. So you focus more on being as God conscious as you possibly can, and that's what Ramadan is, and it's very important to the Muslim.
Does that sound evil to the listening audience? And the last pillar of Islam, I'm gonna ask y'all, does this sound evil? We have to go to Mecca to make the Hajj if we can afford it. Okay. Can you explain? Does that sound evil to y'all? Can you explain for somebody that thinks that this is evil? What is that all about going to the Hajj?
Okay, well, um, the going to Hajj is the pilgrimage that every Muslim, if they can and financially able to, that they can go and go to Saudi Arabia, go to and how you doing, and complete the Hajj. And what you do is, if you look at Mecca, there's the house of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Kaaba, the house of prayer, and there are rituals that is done there, but it's Muslims from all over the planet there, all over the planet join together to praise the one God.
Yes.
And we, like I said, we do all the rituals is there, and it's so powerful. But everybody that I know that has gone to do the pilgrimage, they came back. They said it's changed their life.
Yes.
It had a big impact on their life. But when you see the pictures of the people that are doing the pilgrimage, it is a very, very powerful sight to see when you have just thousands of human beings bowing down in prayer at one time. It is one of them awesome sights. If you get a chance to go to YouTube and pull up the pilgrimage in Mecca, it's called the Hajj, Hajj, and it is something that you would behold, and something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if we follow these principles, and you know what, one thing I forgot to leave out, they say the hearsay is the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, spread Islam. This is represented with the sword, but it says in the Quran that there's no compulsion. There are people that have misconceptions, actually believe that the Prophet of Islam spread Islam with the sword. Can you give us insight on that, please?
Sure. The Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, 1400 years, it is stated in this book called The 100 Most Influential People. It's by an author named Michael Hart. He's a Christian man. He wrote a book called The 100 Most Influential People in the History of Mankind. And he had the number one person, most influential, was Prophet Muhammad.
Yes.
I think Jesus was number 4. I think number 4. But I'm saying it to say this. Right now, Islam is the fastest growing religion. It's still growing. Um, I mean, it's still growing. It's over 1 billion of us still right now, I think. And when you have misnomers about, he spread it with a sword. He was cutting people's heads off and things of that nature.
Yeah.
No. If you study the life of Prophet Muhammad, he was a very humble man. We can't talk about his humble beginnings and everything else. When people tell lies on you and stuff like that, that's not you. Just research. But the thing is, though, anytime, let me say this, though, to the viewing and listening audience, anytime you have a person that is talking about a God, a spirit that no one sees, you're going to have pushback. People are going to come for your head.
Yeah.
Because during those times, there was no computers, there were no TVs, there were no radios. And they believe in worshiping all kinds of objects, bricks, stones, trees, any animals. They worship the sun, the moon. They did all of those types of things. And you come in and start talking about a, a God, something that you don't see.
Yes.
So yeah, it'd probably be some people that want to get you up out of there. And so you would have to protect yourself. If you look at Jesus, they every chance they get, they want to kill him. So he had to get 12 killers to run with him.
Disciples.
You know, the disciples, he had to get, they wasn't nice guys. These were guys that would get with you. You know, I mean, the same thing with Abraham. When Abraham, he had to go against his father. His father was worshiping all kinds of idols. He had to tear that up.
Yes.
So you see that there's going to be violence on what you believe, what people don't believe. And so that's why you put the thing of Muhammad. He spread it with a sword. Well, ain't nobody ain't got no sword today, and Islam is still growing. So it's a word that people hear that draw them to it. And for me, and I'm definitely not no knock on the Christianity. You know.
Yeah, I'm doing a broadcast right now, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's not a knock on Christianity because I still am a believer. I believe in Jesus. I believe in Isaac. I believe in all the prophets. David. I believe in all of those. I believe in all of them. I just choose to be a Muslim. That's just my choice.
And you invited.
Yeah.
But this is, I think, she's probably getting tired of these questions. My last question, who knows, I may formulate another question.
Okay.
But my last question is, can you explain to the listening audience, the people that see this on social media and television, that Muslims love Jesus, and Jesus never said to worship me and did not die on the cross? Can you go off into that? I know I put a lot on the plate.
No, yeah. I prayed who Jesus prayed to. When Jesus got on his knees, I prayed the same one that Jesus prayed to. The Lord's Prayer is the Lord's Prayer. And it starts out as our Father, not my Father.
Yes.
It's our Father. So we start going into all the different nuances of this book say this, but it's a lot of books. So which book? It's a lot of them. It's a lot.
Did he ever say to worship me? Did he ever say that?
I never heard Jesus say that.
Is that in the Bible? It should have got to be in the Bible because I hear so many people say that. Can you expound on that, please?
Well, which Bible are you talking about? So here's the thing. You got so many Bibles, and if you are a researcher and I encourage you to do the research of the Bibles, research all of them, and then read them, and look at this chapter. You're going to see that some chapters don't even have the same chapter in there. As things are just different. So now, if you got different things in there, which one are you going to believe? Which one do you think is so? No, but Jesus is so polarizing. It's such a polarizing figure. I will not be in a position to where I'm going to argue back and forth about Jesus. I know Jesus prayed to God, so I pray to God. Period. So when we start breaking down the nuances, Jesus spoke Aramaic. Jesus spoke Aramaic. When people say, well, I don't know what kind of God you're looking at. The God you got is Allah. But we got God, we got Jesus. Well, do you know when Jesus said, God, Jesus spoke Aramaic, and the word God in Aramaic is Allah.
Okay.
That's what Jesus said, Allah. That's what Jesus called, if you want to say his father, Allah. But and also in the Bible it says we all are sons and daughters of God. So the thing is not to get in anything, because also it says in the Quran, in the Muslims' holy book, it says Christians are closer to the Muslims. So now, I'm not one that's going to create division because of a title. Because of a title. First off, I'm not going to be against other Christian people if you're a good person.
Yes.
I'm not going to be against other Muslims if you're a good person. It's the or if you were under Judaism, or whether it be Zoroastrianism or Hinduism. If you're a good person to me, you are a good person. Too.
You know what, to the listening audience and to my guests, I would like to ask you, if I get a driving ticket, driving my flying car, or my automobile on the ground, are you accountable for that ticket? And I was driving the automobile. Are you accountable for my ticket? I'm leading up to the other question.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you're responsible for what you do.
Okay.
You're responsible for it.
So I would like to ask, and I'm dumbfounded, and you can give some clarity. How can you say that somebody died on the cross for your sins? I use that as an example. I know that was childish, but I want to ask you that.
Yeah.
How is any man accountable for any other man's? But they say he was God. But explain it.
Let me say this. Can't nobody put me in heaven or hell but Almighty God.
Yes.
That's all to it. Can't nobody put me in heaven or hell but Almighty God. And that's that. When we start talking about people's belief systems and what they believe and everything else, because everybody's gonna fight on what they believe in. You know, you got Christians gonna believe what they believe in, the Muslims gonna believe what they believe in Judaism, they're gonna believe what they believe in, and they're gonna stand on it, and a lot of them gonna die on that. And so I just think, it's just me, brother. If listen, if you want to believe the cow jumped over the moon, I'm okay with you believing the cow jumped over the moon. But when we start looking at things that are, we look at common sense. Can you do the time if I created a crime and you do the time for me? That does it make sense? I leave it up to you. You know, to if you're on this audience, you let me know if that makes sense. If you do anything wrong and I go out and I say I'm gonna go take the hit for you, and that's gonna get you off. I don't know if we're gonna be judging people and stuff like that. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, there are things that are there are things I can say that we can't explain, but I also can say that there's things that defy common sense.
Yes.
To me, and I'm not, and maybe people gonna get mad at me. Okay, you get mad at me again. Like I said, ain't no one can put me in heaven or hell but Almighty God. So if you're mad at me, but I'm just expressing my opinion that if someone died for my sins, then well, what about beforehand?
Yeah.
Before that person walked the planet, what happened to the people before that made sins? So if that person died for my sins, then what happens now? Am I can just go? I can just do anything now because I'm been redeemed. So all of that being said, again, I'm not knocking anything anybody believe or thinking, but this is just because the brother asked me the question, and I'm gonna give you the answer. Not for me. I don't believe that. I don't believe no one could take the hit for me, and then that's going to settle the score. For me, I don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not knocking because someone else believes anything. Just for me,
Mm-hmm.
I know I got to try to do the right thing and try to do the best that I can because I'm gonna be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So if you die for my sins and someone goes out there and murder and rape a child and kill it, then that means they're okay. You know, one of the most heinous crimes that you can do. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, and I'm not, and believe me, and yeah, there's some crazy stuff in Islam too that they say with these hadiths, which is crazy too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of hadiths that's nuts. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, brother.
This is the last question. You know what? I'm talking to this brother like we talk on the phone
Yeah,
like this,
yeah,
and you
sure.
know what? My
Right.
they just don't know.
Yeah, they
But my last question is: if Islam believes in one God, praying 5 times a day, paying the zakat, going to Ramadan, and going to Mecca, why did President Trump, U.S. President Trump, put a travel ban on Muslims for coming into the United States? Was it justified?
Now you're talking about somebody that's what's the approval rating? Is the approval rating right now is what?
39%.
Yeah,
30,
and
yes.
they say by this week it'll be 12.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this guy's an idiot. So, but for the sake of conversation, no, it's not right for him to do something like that. Um,
You said we
that- that-
need more people from Holland and Finland
right, right.
and Germany to come in. Okay.
But the thing is that there are already Muslims here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Muslims here, just in the United States. There's a lot of the Muslims here. And guess what? These Muslims here are having babies.
Mm-hmm.
And they're having babies and having babies. So, you know.
Give us a greater voting base, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. But they're still here. You can't stop that,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that he's an idiot, and so I can't give him too much airtime as far as I'm concerned because I don't want to dummy down on. He's just an idiot. So
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
So you know what? When you're watching the Underground Railroad podcast, people out there, and I also this will be on Underground Railroad television show. I'm gonna give myself a cheap plug. I guess I can
right.
since it's my show.
That's right.
You come on every Saturday night at 10:30. But the thing is, I've been asking you questions. There may be a specific message that you want to relay to the listening audience, and please give your contact information and
Okay.
talk about your plug. Plug it all. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. Again, we talked about Islamophobia. We talk about that, and I hope we can clear up some of it. Um, when it comes to me being a Muslim, I'm a black man first, and my religion, how I practice, is Islam. But I love my Christian brothers and sisters also. I sit among my Christian brothers and sisters also. Anybody who's a believer in God, I'm with you. I'm with you. Um, so to let people know that I don't walk around with a long beard or a bow tie or anything like that, and dressed in Eastern garb. So you wouldn't know if I'm a Muslim anyway. You just say he's a cool guy, he's an all right guy, and that's what most brothers and sisters that are Muslim, they are good people. We're not trying to do anything wrong. We're just trying to live our life and continue to keep praising God. That's all we're doing. And like I say, those who are believers in your faith, stay diligent to it. God has sorted everything out for us, and just ask for God for understanding and everything else. And also, you can check my shows out. You can go to YouTube and put in Minister Ben Willis,
Mhm.
blast our podcast. You will see my shows, and it is it's I talk about a plethora of things. They are I've talked about a plethora of things.
Mhm.
So yeah, tune into that. Just check out my shows. And thank you, man, for having me on.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum salam.
So how you doing, brother? So you're looking at the Underground Railroad television show and podcast, and I urge anyone that looks at my platform to support his platform. He's the real deal, and he's a good Muslim brother. Okay, so I'm gonna leave you in the words of Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi barakatuh, and say anything that I said that was wrong was from myself.
I'll be waiting for you.
Okay. The good comes from Allah, and I don't think that I'm saying that right.
That's okay. Good comes from Allah. Yeah.
Good comes from Allah. So I'm human, make error, but this deen of Islam is coming with peace, and it's going to continue to spread no matter what the detractors do, whether they use social media, they use radio, they use television, and all this to cause to exasperate, to spread Islamophobia. This is a good deen. There's good and bad people in every religion, in Islam and Christianity and Judaism. So the majority of people that follow Islam is not going around talking about it. We want to blow up a building or something like that. You got to know that. Okay. So that's the purpose of me having him on as a guest to expand upon that.
I appreciate it.
And Dawah to have you investigate Islam, and hopefully you might consider Islam, and there's no compulsion in Islam, and that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not go around with a sword trying to force people to come to Islam, because as you go to the Bible, go to the Quran, it says there's no compulsion. Compulsion for people that don't mean I can't force you to be a Muslim. So assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A signature on a page, a word spoken in a closed room. Sometimes it only takes a moment to reignite a fire that has burned for centuries. From the streets of Chicago to the squares of London, the world watched as borders became barriers, not just of land, but of identity. When the Muslim ban was signed, it wasn't just a policy, it was a mirror. It reflected a world where the word immigrant became a weapon, and nations in Africa and the Middle East were dismissed with a single vulgar epithet. But the anger didn't start at the airport gates. It started on our screens. For decades, Hollywood and the global media have curated an image of Islam, a silhouette of the enemy that ignored the humanity of Muhammad, the shared roots with Jesus, and the vibrant reality of millions. Whether it's the treatment of Muslims in China, the tensions in France, or the far-right rallies in the UK, the question remains, is the world reacting to the people or to the caricature we've been sold? Today, we strip away the headlines and the Hollywood tropes. We look at the context behind the shithole remarks, the reality of the protests, and the political history of a misrepresentation that continues to shape our borders and our hearts. This is the truth behind the image.
What your grandfather was doing. Any message for your grandchildren? Great.
Because I happen to have known someone who was in the NSA.
Okay.
All right? And they don't know what they'll know now. I've been in their building with him. Did you see it?
Yes, sir.
And
Some people don't know what NSA is.
National Security Administration. And when I walked up in there and seen that, they got video screens. I mean, from here to 35th Street.
Those street cameras, right?
Those are the screens like you watch on a computer.
Right.
All right. They got a room where they listen to conversations all around the country. All right. That's why I can say what I said. But they let me go because he was an important person. And they figured if he was pregnant, it was all right. All right. They made a mistake, but I never forgot that.
But wait a minute, wow.